Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all having a great Friday. Finally, the end of the work week has got here for all of you guys, or most of you anyway. Well, as you can see, there are no blaster boxes on my screen, or your screen either, so we're still waiting on those to get in the mail. But when they do, you will be the first to see them. Well, I'll be the first to see them, but you'll be opening them along with me. So anyway, I decided today to do a From the Vault series. It's just something that I'm starting to do here as I get my cards sorted out and go through them and see cards that I really like, or maybe drivers that I hadn't seen their cards of for a while, or what have you. And so what I'm going to be doing is just pulling random cards of drivers out of my boxes as I get to them, and we'll just go over them really quickly and talk about the drivers that are on, or the driver, because it'll be one driver at a time. We will talk about that driver. Excuse me. Sinuses are really, and allergies are really bothering me today. But anyway, we'll do Darrell Waltrip today. We did Richard Petty as our first installment of From the Vault. But anyway, with Darrell Waltrip here, this is a 99 Max card. This was kind of the end of his career. Was that 98? No, I'm sorry, 98 Max. It looked like a 99, but 98 Max. 98 was kind of the year for Darrell Waltrip. 99 and 2000 was definitely the end of the road in his driving career. But in 1998, he drove for multiple teams. He started with his own team, and a company called Builders Square signed on to sponsor him for the season. They didn't pay him, so he pulled their labels, their decals off his car, and he ran one final race for his own team at Darlington. With Tim Flock was a legendary driver who was suffering from cancer. Darrell painted up his car like the Mercuries that Flock ran back in the 50s, and that was his final race as an owner-driver. He then drove for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated in 98 for several races, replacing Steve Park, who was recovering from a broken leg in an Atlanta practice crash. Go back and watch that one here on YouTube. Type in 1998 Steve Park Atlanta crash. It was a vicious crash, and he was very lucky in that one. But Darrell replaced Steve for about a dozen races there in the middle of 98. And then also another thing you want to look up is the Tabasco fiasco. Darrell started driving the number 35 Tabasco car for Tim Beverly at Indianapolis. There's a long-winded story about that team, as that 35 team had about 4 different owners that year. Tabasco wanted exclusivity to Pontiacs, but Darrell's team, who Tim Beverly bought, wanted to run Chevrolets because they were more competitive than the crap boxes that the ISM team, Tabasco team, originally had. So anyway, we have a pole position card. This would be from 97. Parts America was Darrell's sponsor. There you see, always enjoyed that paint scheme. Darrell always loved them chrome numbers. 1997 at Daytona 500 and in the Brickyard 400, Darrell ran an all-chrome car. Very, very nice looking car. So these are from his Western Auto and Parts America days. Here we have a 96 Speed Flicks. This is, it's not flicking very much, but it really looks more three-dimensional than having any of those motions like the Sport Flick type cards have. There's Darrell and his wife Stevie. It says NASCAR Winston Cup on it. Press Pass 2001. So this would have been the year after Darrell retired and went to work for Fox. Of course, he retired from Fox last year. This was the car that the Kmart car that he ran in 99 and 2000 for Travis Carter Motorsports. And it was a team that they were just starting to build and just didn't really have a lot of success in that car. He had a second place start. He started second at the Brickyard in 2000, and that was his best finish that year when he finished 11th. I did go to practice and qualifying that year for that race, but it was extremely hot and I was not feeling well, so I didn't watch the race in person. Did watch it on TV. Wish I could have been there, but nonetheless, did get to meet DW that weekend. So here's a 96 Road to the Cup. Of course, this was near the end of his ride with his own team there. This one here, Parts America, 96. Upper Deck Road to the Cup there. You have several of those. I think me and my best friend went on a tear with those Road to the Cups. He did own a truck team along with his Cup team about this same time. I believe it was Rich Bickle driving the car at this time. No, Bill Sedgwick was driving at this time. It says Bill Sedgwick on the roof, even though it's Darrell Waltrip. But Rich Bickle drove his trucks for a minute, and he had a few other drivers. I believe P.J. Jones may have driven one of his trucks. So he had a wide assortment of drivers during this time. 96 finish line. I was hoping to have a few more cards here that, okay, we're coming up on one. I see the checker flag from the 91 Max there coming up. But in 1991, Darrell, okay, this is pictures from 1990 when he was driving for Hendrick Motorsports in the Tide colors. Y'all need to go onto the Scene Vault podcast. There's a 3-part interview. Anybody that knows anything about Darrell Waltrip, there's 94 Power. But DW was a very, very controversial, brash driver. He was almost the Kyle Busch of his day. But the thing, like Kyle, he could back up what he said. So go find your on wherever you download your podcast from. Look up the Scene Vault podcast. A couple guys that run that podcast, Rick Houston and Steve Wade, longtime editors and writers for the NASCAR Scene newspaper. They have put together an awesome podcast. They do a Zoomcast every Thursday, then they throw that here on YouTube. So go check them out. It's a really fun podcast if you're into NASCAR history. That's a sharp-looking card, that 96 Max Made in America, the American flag background. But yeah, they have a 3-part interview with Darrell Waltrip. Talks a lot about his career. There's one of the trucks that he drove when he was owning trucks in the series, the Western Auto Silverado. But Darrell, it's just an incredible interview. He talks about his when he started in Cup and then racing for Dygard and Junior and Rick and his own team and all that kind of stuff. So very, very, very good interview, very well done. And it's also Darrell in a way that you've never heard him before, because he's not being held back maybe by suits and ties at Fox, and he lets loose a little bit more than what he has in the past. So it was an interview that I really enjoy, and I encourage all of you guys to go find that. So go find Scene Vault podcast and give them a listen. Go in their archives. They've just got some awesome interviews through the past, and you just constantly consume information. So those guys really, really, they know their stuff and they enjoy it, and they're helping us, keep the history of NASCAR rolling. I had a subscription to NASCAR Scene from 1986 to about 2004, then picked up again in about 2006 till they shut down in 2009, and it was just an awesome paper. Always like these cards from Upper Deck with the hometown and have the road map behind it, but behind the driver there. Chevy Madness inserts. I know we've seen a few of those with some of the other drivers, just randomly here on the channel. Here's a Rolling Thunder card of Darrell Waltrip. But yeah, Darrell was a polarizing figure in his time. Definitely, especially in the 70s, he was a lot like Kyle Busch. That would be the best driver that I could compare him to. Then later on in his career, he's become, through the late 80s and then into the early 90s, he was more like became like a Kevin Harvick or a Matt Kenseth. He was just always there. He'd pop up for wins here and there. Probably more like Kenseth than Harvick, but you get my idea. He was at the back end of the age group. He was one of the older drivers on the tour for quite a while. Kind of like Kenseth and Harvick are now. But there you see him. He's really like these black finish line gold cards. Didn't really get a lot of them. I've only maybe opened 3 packs of these in my life. If I can find a box on eBay, you can bet I'm going to snatch it up. Got some more 94 Power Gold Cup. Gold Cup was the parallel for the 94 Power set. 95 Action Packed. Always like that splash of gold there at the bottom. Thought that just separated them a little bit from the rest of the groups of cards back in 95. And it is a little bit, you can see the thickness there. It's a little bit thicker. And the corners, Action Pack was known for their rounded corners as well. 1991, this is actually 93 Max, so that would be 92 Pocono race win. So y'all need to go on YouTube and type in 1992 Davey Allison Pocono crash. Darrell was involved in a crash with Davey Allison about midway through the race. I want to say about lap 116 or thereabouts. But type in Davey Allison Pocono crash. You will see one of the most vicious crashes in your life. Davey was injured, but he still competed the next week at Talladega. He suffered a concussion. He had, I want to say, like his eyes were in really bad shape from the concussion, and he also had to have surgery on his wrist because you'll see the accident, and I'll just tell you a little bit. His car flipped violently, and as he was flipping around, his hand or his wrist hit the roll bar and just shattered his wrist. So he had to have pins put in his wrist, but he did drive at Talladega 7 days later with relief from Bobby Hillin. We have a Bristol win. This was his next to last career win. And this was the first race, the 1992 Bud 500, was the first race at Bristol on concrete. Martinsville for years has had concrete in their corners. Bristol was the first track to be totally paved in concrete, so that was kind of a historic win there. Dover would later be repaved in concrete in 1995. Then here's Darrell's last career win in 1992 Mountain Dew Southern 500, a rain-shortened race. If Davey Allison would have won this race, he would have won the Winston Million, as he won the Daytona 500 and Winston 500. There's Darrell's 93 Max base card. There's a Classic 5 Sport. Again, we talked about in 2000 when his last season came about. There was his Kmart Route 66 car that he drove. You know, there was a lot of good marketing campaign that went behind that. I wish the team could have had the resources to put behind them. Here's a 92 Tracks. Always like this card. You just have a nice quiet background, not a lot of distraction. So you have a few more cards here, and we're going to call this video a day just as soon as we get to the end of it. Looks like I have a lot of 2000 MVPs stuck there. 2000 Press Pass. And last couple cards, another MVP, and we have an Ernie Irvan card. Wow. Oh, well, that'll go in the stack to be organized. I guess it's stuck to the back of it. So Ernie Irvan with a surprise cameo there at the end. But once again, we're still creeping our way up the subscription numbers. Once we get to 500, I'll do another giveaway, of course, and I'm going to keep telling you guys that, so you'll probably get sick of hearing it. And I'll get some nice cards put up there on them easels there in the back for you to look at. Not saying the ones there aren't nice as they are, but they will be relic cards that we will do at 500 giveaways. I do appreciate everybody staying tuned for this. Hope you like this From the Vault series. You know, let me know what drivers you'd like to see some cards of if you have a favorite driver. I know we did the Danny and Gray special request, and that was for a transaction him and I had, but that was literally all my Jeff Gordon cards. But we did some Richard Petty ones last week. We just now seen some Darrell Waltrip ones. So as I get more drivers sorted out, we'll be able to do a few more of these. I think you guys will like hearing the history of some of the drivers and some of the cards. So anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Keep those subscriptions coming. Keep those, more importantly, keep those likes and those comments coming. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again, and have a great day.